Good morning and welcome everyone to the 4th Annual Kansas Prevention Conference. The purpose of this conference is to empower prevention coalitions to redouble their efforts in the community. The theme, Strong for the Next Generation, is meant to remind us that we do this work for future generations.
Thank you, Janelle, and good morning, everyone. I am so happy to see all of you today.
It's just my delight to be here to welcome all of you to the 4th Annual Kansas Prevention Conference. I'm so delighted to see everyone's faces across the screen. Just particularly heartened to have participation from members of coalitions from across the state.
I love the title of your conference and congratulations on your 4th year. Strong for the next generation. Beauty is everywhere. We have to say that, mean that, and work towards that in terms of prevention. Who is and is not represented first at your prevention table in your prevention efforts? So not everybody needs the same size bite, right? So our prevention efforts are not cookie cutter.
A couple of things that are important to note. Protective factors are incredibly important in reducing the negative impact of risk factors. We also want to highlight that culture can be a protective factor. We want to keep that in mind when we're working with diverse groups of people, diverse populations, that an individual or a community's culture can be extremely protective against behavioral health issues. So when we're talking about prevention, it's not just about eliminating a negative behavior, but it's also about supporting those protective factors in order to optimize our well-being. Promoting connectedness is extremely, extremely important when thinking about prevention strategies. We say connectedness, we really mean that feeling of being cared for, that feeling of being supported, and that sense of belonging.
Now there's 7 strategies for community change. This is kind of like Prevention 101. I'm really excited that all of you are here because this is like my passion.
In this session, we'll be talking about the Kansas Communities That Care, or KCTC, student survey. And here's a look at participation. With 27 years of data, here you can see the changes over time in participation. You'll see a steady incline since the beginning of the survey in 1995.
When I saw this picture, the therapist in me was going, yes, yes, yes. Because look how this young girl could separate the disease. Look how big the disease is. Look at its teeth. Look at its fingernails are like claws, and it's got a steel band around its wrist. And as this 12-year-old girl shared, that's my sister, that's my mom, and that's my dad. Everybody in my family has addiction. And just when I thought she was done, this 12-year-old girl, the tears started streaming down her face, and she looked at me and said, am I next? Jerry, everybody in my family gets the disease. Am I going to get it too? Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. That's where this great prevention work comes in.
In a class I was helping with, I had a 7th grader say that addiction has ripped my family apart. In meetings with some of the kids in my program, we've heard kids aren't happy anymore, bullying's getting really bad, parental suicide, parental arrest, parental addiction, extreme poverty, not knowing where their dinner was coming from. That is why depression looks the way it does. That is why our kids feel the anxiety. This is also the way substance abuse looks the way it does, or substance use looks the way it does among kids in Kansas. It doesn't have to stay that way, guys. We in prevention can change that. We can be a part of creating a new movement. And then drug-free, 72% of drug-free communities coalitions host a youth coalition, so those with drug-free communities grants, which is pretty high. And I think that's becoming more and more of an importance to the DFC. So if you're trying to get a DFC and you don't have youth involved, I would definitely recommend starting a youth coalition or getting youth involved in some way in your community.
Thank you to all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us this week. I hope that you all enjoyed the conference as much as I did and found it re-energizing for your work.